Hi, I'm Connie Whitman, your host, and you're listening to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. As always, you know that I love that you're joining us today. So my motivational quote is by Harriet Tubman, and she says, the wise woman, "You have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and change the world." Now, Harriet is a preeminent example of how one person actually shaped history through her own personal action. Her work with the Underground Railroad gave people the ability to live as free citizens, and this is pretty heady stuff when you think about it. But let's talk about you on a more realistic scale. What really chafes you, okay? Have you thought about what you might do to call attention to the problem and get something done? And think about this personally. So just like Harriet, we all have the power to make change. The question is, will we harness that energy to affect real change? So I'm fascinated by this question and how it sits with people. So does something bother you enough to actually do something about it? So today, and I'm excited about my guest and my conversation today, and my guest is Jamie Amelio. Jamie is a philanthropist and entrepreneur and author of her new book called Staying Bothered, Find Your Passion, Commit to Action, Change the World. And the book is a powerful guide to paying attention to our inner prompting and turning these callings into agents of change. Now, Jamie has dedicated her life to helping children, from founding the groundbreaking charity Caring for Cambodia to leading the front on teen suicide prevention, and ultimately starting the Staying Bothered global movement. She shared the first part of her experience in Cambodia in Grace with Orange, how caring for Cambodia changed lives, including her own. Please help me welcome my just amazing guest, Jamie Amelio, to the show. So, James, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me, Connie. Really appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and your book is really important because we are all bothered by so many freaking things, and yet we do what are you going to do? Instead of saying, what can I do to make a difference? And, we were just talking before, your son is on the Walking Dead fan. We are living the Walking Dead. So we all need to start to get a little bothered so that we can take our part and make a difference in what's happening right on our doorstep today with the virus, right? The coronavirus. So first question, though, is, number one, I love the book, and I love the name of the book, Staying Bothered. To me, it says it all, okay? We need to stay bothered and do something about it. Tell us about the book and how you came to write it. Why did you even write it?
Well, I started thinking about writing the book as I was working with Caring for Cambodia and realizing how hard it is to stick to something that really bothers you. Because we do find, as you mentioned, other times people will go ahead and pick it up and do something. That's what we think as human beings. Oh, somebody else will do it. Or I'll start something and, I'll get back to it. And the easy part is being bothered about something, whether it's something in your neighborhood or around the world. But therein lies the tough one. Are we really going to make the world a better place? And can we, is the question. The answer is yes, if we actually do stick to what bothers us and do something about it. And it's funny you mentioned The Walking Dead, because we really are kind of living that right now. And you know what that show is so much about? Relationships.
Absolutely.
You don't give up. You learn how to deal with other people in different situations, and that's where we're in, and we got to keep on doing something about it. So I just couldn't give up. I felt like I had to share that with others. Come on, people. We can do this. We can do this as a world, as a community, as a neighborhood, and it's tough. It really is, but doable.
The execution is tough because I think you're right. We all say, well, somebody else will do that. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the network of people. I don't have the following. Well, you start, like you said, start with your family, then your neighborhood, then your bigger community, then the people you work with. And all of a sudden your network is exploding, and we really can change the world. I think when we say that, Jamie, people go, oh, changing the world, that's impossible. How about changing yourself? Start with yourself. And what good habits can we put in place that could create a ripple effect and affect the bigger scale of things that are just going on around us? So, I love the book. I really really love the name Staying Bothered. And I thought, yeah, man, we have to stay bothered, right? So, all right.
And some people say, do you feel like that's negative? And I'm saying, no, it's thought provoking. I wore the shirt day before yesterday in Central Park. I was in New York, and I counted how many people asked me, what does that mean? And I hadn't done that before. I was going to do that from the time I wrote the book, and I thought, now, oh man, it's the perfect time. What are people bothered about? And they're talking about it, and it sparked conversation. Yeah. And never before have we lived in a world where people think about being kinder, but we actually have to do it, which means staying bothered about something enough to make a change.
That's right. And before we started the show, right, Jamie, we said what's going on with this coronavirus. It's a reboot. It's a refresh for the world. So what a great opportunity. We're now innovation and more digital things so that everybody can have access to information, whatever it might be. I just think that we are at a pinnacle or a crossroad of real change that's going to happen because of the chaos that's happening throughout. This is a global situation, and everybody has to take part in it. We can't close our eyes and say, oh, well, that's happening over there. That's not happening. We're insulated. Nobody's insulated.
There's anymore. No way out. There's no way out.
So your book, man, your book is so timely. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
It is, isn't it? I'm freaking out about it myself a little bit, because one of the things I suggest, and people will say, well, tell me what I can do. One of the things you need to do is stop and feel and listen to yourself. What really bothers you? And then I'll say, go get online, figure it out. Oh, well, guess what, people? Now we have time. We have time to go figure some stuff out. So let's go ahead and do it.
It's true.
Everyone's on that roller coaster of life, the hamster wheel, right? Yeah, I'll get to it. Not now. We've been forced to stop for a hot minute.
I'm telling you, we're rebooting. It's a global reboot. Yeah,
I'm going to borrow that if you don't mind. It's a reboot. I'm going to borrow it.
You can absolutely. It started here on this show, right?
Doing it.
So here's the question. I know people are thinking. All right, so all these grassroots, initiatives, they just fail. What are the top 3 things that you advise for people who are thinking, wait, I'm loving this, and their synapses are firing? What can they do to create sustainability with whatever charge they take?
Well, it really does take a little bit of more in-depth thinking than any of us would consider when we want to start something, because we all want to do good. But if you want to take something in your neighborhood, and perhaps you want to feed kids after school, just for an example, and you want to go start this movement, or you want to start an organization, it's really more beneficial when you do that. Go figure out what works already. Go find other people in that have that same mindset, that are doing something that you believe in, and then figure out if you can do your own thing, because oftentimes it's already right there, because we are living in a world of people that want to do better than ever in history before, ever. Sure. So in my experience in the history of doing Caring for Cambodia, almost 18 years now, I can't tell you how many people have said, I want to start this, I want to do this. And my number one piece of advice is, wait, before you do it on your own, go see if somebody else is already doing it. And then if you feel like you've got that power, you've got that backup to really help you do something on your own, then take that step. Don't start out with, I'm going to do it all on my own, because none of us should be doing everything on our own. We shouldn't. And go steal ideas. Figure out what really works in your community or in the world. And that's what I did when I started with Caring for Cambodia. I surrounded myself with people that knew about education. I wasn't an educator. I didn't know, but I went and found out what it took to actually help kids in schools. So I think that's a number one piece of advice, and a long answer is, go find out who's doing something already, and then figure it out if you can tag on to that.
It's funny too, if somebody else already has something underway, whether it's small or a bigger whatever, right? A bigger endeavor. Yeah. Partner with them. How can you take their expertise, take your expertise, and now we can do this blend, and maybe you are what they need to bring their endeavor, their getting, staying bothered, to bring it to the
Connie,
next level.
You're so right. And some people have the education, they've got the wherewithal to do it, and some don't have the passion. And some have the passion. That's what you need to push things forward is, man, I can do this. I can make a difference. And we live in a world of awesome young people that want to change the world. I love this whole 18 to 30. They really want to do something.
Agree.
Really. And they will be the game changers. But you know what? You got to take around us older people and have a little gander. See what we might know. It might help you out a little.
It's so funny. I don't know if you listen. He's a Jersey guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, I think is his name. And anyway, yeah, you know who I'm talking about. He is like a social media king out there. My kids listen to him, of course, because he curses. You know, they think that's the coolest.
Oh yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he is. He's a cool dude, right? He's in his 40s. So one day, my son said to me, "Oh, I was listening to Gary V on a podcast." And whatever he said, and I go, "Oh, the one about blah, blah, blah." And he looked at me and he goes, "You know who Gary V is?" And I'm like, "Yes, I know who Gary V is. I think he's a social media genius." And I said, "I think that he says things that people are afraid to say because he doesn't have that filter that most of us, politically correct." But I said, I love his idea that young people, exactly what you just said, young people are not afraid to say, "Hey, I have an idea, man. I'm going to go out. I'm going to create it." They hook up with Gary and they say, "Can you invest?" Right? Because he's a venture capitalist. "Give me some money. Let's go." And on one of his rants, one of his podcasts, he said, "I love helping these kids. They're innovative. They're not afraid to jump in on the deep end and try things out." He goes, "By you people who are 50s, 60s, and 70s," he says, "you're all curling up and dying and you're slowing down. Why are you slowing down? You should be scaling up. You have all of this information in your head. Partner with these kids." And he goes, "See, because they're innovative and they're not afraid. You have all of the experience and knowledge. Why don't you come?" See, it's exactly what we're talking about today.
It is.
With staying bothered.
That's where the staying bothered comes in, because those people, they were bothered at one time.
Yep.
And I've seen it. Volunteers all over the world for years. They sometimes get a mindset of, I just can't do enough. I don't have $1,000. I don't have 10 hours a week. And the truth of the matter is, 1 hour, $1 can change the life of one person.
Sure.
This is no cliche anymore. This is no, if I do just a little bit, it will mean a lot. That is the God honest truth of what will happen in our world. And I've seen it time and time again. Yeah. That's what half the time I want to get on a mountaintop and just scream. People, your dollar, your $5, man, it makes a difference.
Yep.
More than you know.
Little adds up
right now.
Yep, little adds up to the big. I have to ask, what was your first bother?
Well, when I went to Cambodia and I was living in Singapore, it was on my list of places to go. And it's funny, when you do an expat assignment, I had no idea what was in store for me. But friends, you make friends fairly quickly because you're living in a new community with no old friends, right? So it was the list of places to go. I went to Cambodia with a girlfriend of mine, and we were touring these incredible temples of Angkor Wat. I was so blown away. I just never seen anything like it. I felt almost just negligent for not knowing that this was out in the world. But a little girl had come up to me, and she literally asked me for $1. And the country was so poor, kids that morning had been asking, "Hey, lady, buy a postcard or buy a T-shirt." And I was, okay. But I asked her what she wanted the dollar for, and she said it was to go to school. And I went, wow, okay, well, I'll tell you what, if you show me your school, I'll give you the dollar. And it was that afternoon. I went to, her name is Sraylin, I went to her school and walked into a building that was nothing more than 4 walls and a dirt floor, and saw 50, 60 kids jam-packed in there. And it was literally in that moment. I couldn't get out of my head that my kids lived a couple hours away, went to a great school, and had everything they could possibly need. And wait a minute, I'm here on vacation, and I'm looking at a situation like this I wasn't even aware of. That's not okay. That was not okay. I was so bothered from that moment. I couldn't ever get over it. Still to this day, when I talk about it, I relive that moment. And I swore to them I'd come back. How could that be okay with me? And then I started talking to my guide about the history of Cambodia and what they'd been through with the genocide. Then it was a very hard left turn. Wait a minute, I didn't know that 2.5 million Cambodians were killed in the 70s. When I was playing in my backyard, this was going on. Then I felt really bad. Americans had a lot to do with it. That was just it. I was so bothered, and I knew it. You can call it a God moment or whatever we want. My life was changed forever. That was it. And I didn't go back. And that was 21 schools ago, and thousands of volunteers have helped and made that country a better place. And the face of education is better off today because of volunteers. And collectively, we stayed bothered. But then it got hard. So that's why we got to keep going. That's when you got to make that extra effort.
And talk about that, because in the book you really, it's very eloquently explained, and you have wonderful pictures for people to see the before and the after. And getting, starting with that one school, that one visual. Let me back up for a second, though. You know, Jamie, what you just blew me away talking. You could have easily just given that buck to the kid and said, all right, go, whatever. For whatever, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. Why did you say, what do you want the dollar for, right? So you said it, a God moment, whatever. And then to say, oh, you want to use it for school? Show me your school. Those two sentences created this, wow, tremendous change, right? Your organization, and then now the book. So to staying bothered. So two sentences literally changed your life, but how many lives have you and the volunteers, because you found so many like-minded people like yourself. Talk about how you started with nothing, right, other than this, show me your school, then getting educated by the guide. What did you do? Because you did not do this alone. Can you share that with everybody?
No,
it's moving.
Yeah. I think the friend that I was with was worried instantly that now I was going to go crazy with this. So, no, what are we going to do? Because what you see is almost, you feel like you're in a strange movie. How can a little girl, probably 8 years old, be working at a temple asking for money to go to school? If you put those couple pieces together in a puzzle, it's alarming on a different level. And then to want to actually see what she's talking about, that's scary. So I thought, I'm going to venture out there. I'm going to do something different. So when I got back from being in Cambodia and I got back to Singapore, I could have gone back to being the PTA wife, the mother of my kids, working out, going to school. But I called my friends up, as we do, and said, come over for a glass of wine. We're going to talk. And then it started. We're around the coffee table and I'm saying, guys, you've got to come back and see this. If you had the opportunity, you would do the same thing. So we started out with backpacks and bringing school supplies, and it started out small. It was a couple $100s to get on that plane and go over there. And now people spend thousands of dollars taking thousands of toothbrushes and school supplies. And it's about, you keep going back. You keep your promises. You do what you say you're going to do, and things change. And it's hard.
And this didn't happen overnight either, Jamie. Like you said, this was over like a 20-year period, 2 decades of time.
Yeah. And the first year I went back every month. Because in my heart, I felt like these people had seen tourists before that had gone and said they're coming back and didn't come back. So I felt very compelled to say, I'm not going to be one of those. I'm not going to be crazy white lady that comes into your Cambodian country, has fun, and then books it and doesn't come back. That just wasn't, I was determined. And you know what, Connie, when people came with me and they saw what had happened, and then they learned about the forgotten genocide, because it is. People, they don't talk about it. So we talk about the Nazis in Germany, and thank God that we don't let that go. We should not let this one go either.
You're right.
My kids don't see it in their history books. So when people came back to Cambodia and they met those people, and then they saw the very children that they could help, you could hold their hand, and they're saying, thank you. Thank you.
It's remarkable. And I think that in the United States and, maybe even parts of Europe, we really have everything. We really do have everything, and then exponentially more. And when you see these environments, these kids, this lack of education, and I was giggling as this little girl said to you, hey, I'd like $1 to be able to go to school. Our kids, get to go to college, and public school systems in the United States, right, are stellar. They have their issues, don't get me wrong, but our kids are getting an education without thought, and we forget that it's a privilege. And I think that's part of it too, that when you're insulated and you don't see it, we can think, we don't have to think about it because it's not affecting me directly. It's just really scary. Talk to me about staying bothered. You write of a new bother, focusing on the emotional wellness of American teens. This is really important too. So can you talk a little bit about that to bring it even closer to home for folks listening?
I didn't think anything could be more important than what we were doing in Cambodia, literally changing the face of education. I believed in education so much. And there was a time period some years ago where I sat my kids down and I said, you guys, am I working too much? Are you okay with this? No, Mom, stick with it. We are behind you. Do it. Well, at that time, I had teenagers. Please give me a toddler over a teenager any day. But we can't get through it, right? We have them. And teens go through a tough time. And what was happening was I was seeing my oldest son, who's now 31, went through a very tough time. So my age range is 31. My youngest now is 15. He struggled with drug abuse, alcoholism from 16, really even 15 to 18, but then it wasn't a typical teen thing. He wound up going to rehab. And finally, one day, what actually changed his life was going to Cambodia for the summer. And he said, Mom, I realized that people in this world have so much less than me, and the world really is not all about me. I've got to get it together. Yeah. Now, that doesn't happen often. Austin went through lots of bad, tough, bottom out, rock bottom times. But I learned a lot through that rehab, how to deal with teenagers. So I go on working. Well, lo and behold, then my third boy, who at the time is struggling at 14, 15, I'm thinking, what, again? Well, what was happening and going through lots of therapy, God bless psychologists and psychiatrists around the world that are now dealing with this teen stress and anxiety and depression issue. It's as bad as a common cold, and I'll call it that, crisis level. When our teenagers believe that an option to get through the day is taking their own life, we better snap out of what we're doing and step up to looking at our kids a little bit harder. So I had this wonderful young boy who was in lacrosse, good grades, all of a sudden falling through the cracks in the school system. He's sitting alone at lunch. Nobody's noticing. He's depressed. I'm thinking he's tired. The kid was thinking about taking his own life. We've got to do better in our school systems and from a parenting standpoint to notice when our kids are one off and really off. And this is what the parents are not talking about. I guarantee we go to the grocery store and the lady 2 aisles down is going through the same thing with her teenager. So that became my new bother. Let's talk about it. All of a sudden, I'm realizing my schools in Cambodia, my teachers are paying closer attention to those students than my teachers in my own school district to my own teenagers. And I'm a lucky one. Bronson's alive and well today, but I had a very good friend through this time period that lost her son, he thought that was his option. And we all know of someone. And that just shouldn't be that way. So I'm determined to keep talking, keep the conversation open, really shatter that silence of teen suicide. We got to do better. We've got to do better.
Yeah, we do. And it's really true. And the other thing, Jamie, and I think it's because of social media and all those things, that comparaphobia, if you will. We did not have that when we were kids. So we had our own stresses. Don't get me wrong, right? We certainly did. And I'm sure there was depression, with our generation too. I think you're a little younger than me, but again, we're peers. These kids, what I see, the stress that my kids are over with education. My younger guy, just not to get too personal, but he all of a sudden started having stomach issues. I'm like, what are you taking? What are you doing? Because then I'm thinking, is he taking something that could be aggravating? And no, Ma, no. And I mean, I believed him, right? Because I think we have a pretty open relationship. But come to find out, excuse me, we took him to, the doctor. He has stress-related irritable bowel syndrome. So okay, why? So you know what he said to me when I said, but why? I go, James, we are not saying bring home A's. What are you doing? Stop partying. Because he's a very diligent student. I know I don't have to have that conversation. He puts more stress than I ever would. And you know what he said, Mom? Do you know what? He goes, Mom, you know what I'm stressed out at? He goes, I know what college is costing you and Dad. And he goes, and the thought of it, that if I don't get good grades, how dare I? And I said, dude, you gotta, take that off. If we couldn't afford it, you wouldn't be going, or you'd be going to an alternate school. That's my problem, my worry, not yours. And number 2, I'm not looking for A's. You shouldn't be looking for A's. You're going to get the degree. You're a bright kid. You're a hard worker. That is what's going to translate into a job, not what your GPA is. But
you're so right, Connie. That conversation is not happening. And I'm sorry. Look, I will be the first to say I am no great parent. Boy, all my kids have been messed up. I am no doubt about it. I'm the first to admit it, for sure. What I learned through this process is, number 1, I did not let my kid fail enough. Number two, it is so about the struggle. It is about these kids failing, and they need to know it's okay from us.
Totally.
When they're in school and their counselors are talking about them, where to go to college, how about the counselor saying, hey, buddy, how you feeling today?
Agree.
How about that one? That's a novel idea. But these kids do put that stress on themselves, and we've got to have those conversations of, you know what? You fail, but you're happy, you're going to be okay. Because we all got ourselves picked up and moved on. I certainly didn't make good grades. I'm doing okay. So it's those conversations that need to be had. And I think now that we're at home, again, your refresh, reboot, this is an opportunity to have those tough conversations with our kids. Now, how many parents have said, you know, please don't ever think about suicide. Please don't ever even let that be in your head. I asked a couple of my friends when I first started saying that, they're like, oh, I don't need to say that. She's fine. He's fine. No, we do. We do. So that is my new bother. And it's a thing that we can do. We can be bothered about something. We can make change. We can continue on with that. And we can continue to make the world better by noticing that there are other things that we can also help others to get better at. And that's one thing.
You know, your thing was Cambodia. Now the teens, right in our own backyard. There are two things that are bothered and you're doing something about it. Everybody, there's something that has to bother you at the core. Think about, like you said, go on the internet. Who's already doing something? Can I partner with them? What resources do I have? Do they need a little donation of $5? Whatever it is, it's a contribution right onto the bigger platform. We're almost out of time. Talk to me. What are the top 5 tips that you would offer someone once they find whatever their bother is and to stay bothered? What would be those 5 tips?
Okay, another one. I say it's cliche, but I'm going to say it out loud, and I'm going to say it. This is the most important thing. Write that thing down and put it in front of your face. I don't care where you put it. If you have it in your closet, you have it on your computer, you have it in your car. You need to look at it every day because we get so sidetracked with life that those important things, they fall by the wayside and they fall to the bottom of the list. Then we all work. We live and die by our calendars these days. Put Thursday at 9 a.m. to go do a little research on what you believe in. Put it on your calendar. And more importantly, as you're going through this, stop for a minute and do a gut check. Everybody now is into meditating, quiet. We all have the apps on our phone, Calm app, Headspace, blah, blah, blah. You know, I try all that and then I go ahead and take the melatonin and it works. But anyway, as we're thinking about what we can do, you know, we've got to stop and feel the passion that is within us because it's there. I've seen it in thousands of people. Turn off your computer, put your phone on silent, sit for a hot minute. And that's your reboot. Then you go back and you actually research. One of the neat things, my Stay and Bother team, which is so great, all these young people making a difference, we put on our website, we went and vetted a ton of organizations that we feel that if you want to do something about it, it's a great starting place, like Alzheimer's or National Cancer Society or those type of things. You can go look at stayandbother.com and find an organization that you might can connect with. And then once you start it, you may not be able to do a whole lot, but post about it. Let's go ahead and use this social media stuff.
Absolutely.
Use it, post it, talk about how you're feeling. Don't be critical. Don't ever cut another organization down, ever. Everybody's trying to do the right thing in their own way. And just stick with it. It's that Stay and Bothered, SBSB, stay that way. We can do it. I know it. I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, you've seen it. You've lived it. You've executed. I mean, you're doing it. So it's not like you're preaching of something that's not possible. You're preaching, or not even preaching, but you're discussing what is possible. And I think that is really, really, really important. So everybody, first, I have to say, please, and buy the book, because the book is, the stories and the pictures were, wow. I can't even tell you. So the book is, say it one more time for us. I want to make sure I get it right.
It's Staying Bothered, Find Your Passion, Commit to Action, and Change the World. It's on Amazon. You can also buy it from the website, stayandbother.com. And all the proceeds, they actually go back to Caring for Cambodia. I mean, why not? Let's go ahead and educate some kids as we learn to help our world a better place along the way. So absolutely. It's $180 a year to send one kid to school in Cambodia. So it's nice to be able to do that alongside with hopefully helping people to really make change.
It's crazy.
It's happening.
And you know, Jamie, the funny thing too is when we start doing, right? The good things, you feel better about yourself. So even if you're dealing with isolation, depression, or whatever, when you become some part of something that's just bigger than you, and your son said it really well. It was Austin, right? That went to Cambodia with you. It said, "Holy crap! Like, it's not about me. Look at what's going on. You know, literally a few miles away on an airplane." Wow. So I think it makes us more relevant and part of something bigger than me. And all of a sudden, it's not I'm depressed, whatever. I feel like I have control because I can make a difference. And I think everybody in this world, we all want to make a difference. Again, from the dollar to the $1 million doesn't matter, but we all want to make a difference.
And perfect timing too. Studies show it physically and mentally makes us healthier to give and care about 100%. Others. Okay, here's another one. Let's go ahead and beat this coronavirus thing. Let's get healthier by helping others. Why not? You know, there's going to be a million things we're going to hear. Wash your hands, do this, do that. Okay, let's take some time and help someone we wouldn't normally have thought about helping.
Totally. It's as easy as that. So again, stayingbothered.com. Also, if you are interested in the Cambodia conversation we had, caringforcambodia.org. A ton of information there. And I love that you guys on Staying Bothered put a bunch of resources to get people's creative juices kind of flowing to say, what am I bothered about? What I don't know. Go look at that website, read the book. And I'm telling you, you said it, go to your gut. You're going to find what bothers you and where you can make a difference, whatever that means, whatever that means to you. Guys, also go to, actually I'm updating my website, but you can go to whitmanassociates.com, and I am offering, my partner and I have created a communication style assessment. It's free to you. It teaches you what your superpowers are, and it teaches you when you communicate what some of your blind spots are, and you do get a little report, and that'll help you, again, based on what we're talking about today, that outreach. How can I communicate, especially if you feel like you're awkward? We have some tips and tools for you to figure that out. So whitmanassociates.com. Right on the landing page, I am going to have that communication style assessment for you to take. Jamie, thank you so much for being on. Really fun, number one, fun time because you have a great personality, but heavy conversation that I think needs to be had. Keep rocking it, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring the world, because I think that's mine. We talk very well. We're talkers. So I think that's one of your superpowers. Clearly, I think we need to get the word out there and, get people bothered. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks, Connie. Thanks for having me. It takes people like you to continue the movement too, man. I appreciate it and wish you the best.
Truly. And tell your son that I want to get, when he's on Talking Dead, I want to be the guest with him.
Okay, noted. I'll pass it on. You got to come down to Texas and say hey.
Love it.
When we can fly.
Yeah, when we can fly. You got her. We'll do a road trip. Don't click out just yet. Guys, I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together that change, no matter what it is for you or what you're going through, there are resources like people like Jamie, the things that she's contributing to the world, down to, my CSA, my communication style assessment. There's always help. There's always information, and there's always a different perspective for you to look at things. Hopefully it will help you navigate change more effectively. Jamie, thank you again for joining me. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in this week. I hope that you found the conversation valuable. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. I wish everyone an inspired week. Please go out and find what bothers you, what's your staying bothered for you. Thanks, everybody.